Hey everybody, got a private email from Bob, and I'm going to butcher the name. Pichiet. Gosh. Pichiet. I forgot, Bob. Forget it. I can't pronounce your last name. Anyhow, he asked me if I've ever created or know of the Adamski effect. And the answer is no. I mean, I know of it, but I've never created it. And he asked me if I could do that on the channel. So we're going to take an image and do things that look like this right here. And I'll do another one. I'll show you this one right here. But we're also going to talk about the strategies of what type of image we should use to create the Adamski effect. Are we ready for this? Let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to the channel, this is dedicated to photography and as a photo artist, pushing ourselves out of the box creatively. Okay, Bob, again, I apologize for not even attempting your last name, but he had asked me a question about, have I ever heard of or done the Adamski effect? And the answer is yes, I've heard of them, but I've never done it. So let's talk about the images. Let's take a look at 2-3 images, and let's talk about how we should approach this and do this in Photoshop. But it works with certain types of images. So let's take a look at some of his work right here. And again, his name is Josh Adamski. It should be right here on the bottom of the screen. You can do a search to find his website. But the type of images that work the best is when you're trying to isolate a single subject matter. So like right here, there's, he has selected that as the final image to draw your attention to, but everything else is sort of like blurred out. Here's another image example, and again, major subject matter, and the subject matter is much smaller than the actual frame of the image. So it's really important that if you go out to shoot this, that the subject matter that you're finding, and it could be like a tree out in the open field. It could be, if you're maybe from Africa or you were on a safari, it could be an elephant or a giraffe that's out in the field, a horse, that kind of stuff. It doesn't have to be a person. It could be an animal or bird or whatever. But the key thing is it's the smallest, say, subject within the major frame of your shot right there. Those type of images make the best or give you the best results doing the Adamski effect right there. So let's dive into Photoshop, and I want to throw in some curveballs and different variations that you can actually do with this effect. Are we ready? Let's do it. Okay, this is the image I'm going to work with here. And again, as I mentioned, I'm going to do different variations. So I just don't want you to think one way. But let's talk about the image first. Number one, this is a stock image. I don't have time to go out and do something, especially right now in Michigan, we're having floods and a lot of bad weather or whatever. But the point is, again, the major subject is right here, the person that's running. I'll show you a different image a little bit later. But the point, again, is she's relatively small to the rest of the scene around there. That's really important for the effect. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do Control-J or Command-J on a Mac to duplicate the layer here. So let me do that. Now, once I have that, I'm just going to do this, and that is make sure I'm on some type of selection tool here. Doesn't matter, I'm right there, but what I want to do is choose Select Subject from my contextual taskbar right there. And again, if you're new to Photoshop, you will find that contextual taskbar in the window drop-down menu. If it is not open, it's toward the very bottom right here. And I just have mine anchored at the very top. So I'm just going to choose to select, again, the subject by clicking down on that and let it do its thing. So there's the selection. And now what I want to do is Control-J or Command-J on a Mac to duplicate that. So now, if I'm looking here, let me hold the Alt key down and click on that so you can see that I copied her up. So that should be, that's Alt, that should be Option on a Mac. So if I click on the eyeball with the Alt key down or Option on a Mac, it isolates it to that layer. And then when I do it again, all the layers come back. So for right now, I'm going to hide the very top one. And this is optional if you want to do this. And that is, I'm going to grab, because some people want the blurriness on the side, and that'll make sense in a few minutes, but I'm going to go over here to our healing category, choose the remove tool right there, and I'm just going to go and click and drag to highlight her. And then select the checkbox up there at the very top and let it do its thing. Now, that'll take a few seconds for it to render out. But what I'm doing is I want to eliminate her, the subject, from this image that's, again, duplicated. So that's unbelievable how good of a job this stuff does. Now I activate the very top one so you can see her there. So it looks like, the normal image, correct? But I need to have that separated right there. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select this layer right here. So I'll make sure I'm not on the subject right there, the runner. This is now on the clean, say background without her there. And I'm going to do a right mouse click in the gray area and choose to convert to a smart object. That way it's non-destructive, because what I'm going to do is come down over here to filter drop-down menu and go to the blur category. And I'm going to choose, now I'm actually going to do this again, and I'm going to use a different blur technique. But to start with, I'm going to start with the motion blur right here. And then when this dialog box opens up, you can change the angle if you want to the blur. I mean, some people, I've seen examples of it going vertical versus horizontal. I think this one might look better horizontal right there. So I can change the degree, and I'm going to move this right across like that to get a strong blur. Okay, right there. Now, once I got it done, I click on OK to accept that. And the nice thing is, if I felt I blurred it too much or didn't blur it enough, because it's a smart object layer, I can go back here and double click on motion blur and then make my adjustment, because all this again is totally non-destructive. And that's the purpose of making that, again, a smart object layer. Now I'm going to go to the very top. This is her right up at the top there. So I can turn that on and off so you can see what's going on. And I'm going to do the same thing, right mouse click. And I'm going to choose convert to a smart object again. And now what I want to do is, because I think, and again, this is not right or wrong. This is personal preference. So let me zoom in on this a bit. I think the cutout is too strong, and that's just personal taste. A lot of people like this. And remember, you're doing this for you. You're not doing this for me. So you may like it cut out like that. I don't personally. It's just me. So what I'm going to do here is, with that layer selected, I'm going to go back to the filter drop-down menu, come down to blur again as the category, and I'm going to choose a Gaussian blur. And because, again, it's a smart object layer, that means this is totally non-destructive. And I might want to blur it a little bit like this. Click on OK to accept that. And there is the mask that it automatically puts down. White reveals that blur. So if I grab my paintbrush, B for brush, and I paint in black, and I'll make sure it's a soft edge brush, and I'm painting at 100%, I'm just going to click and drag. Let's make this a little bit bigger in this area. Maybe make the brush a little bit smaller, come down the leg a little bit, and just hit certain areas like this. I like that effect right there. So if I turn this on and off, we can see the difference where the outer area, let me show you the mask. There's the mask that I did. Remember, white reveals, black conceals. So the black is concealing that blur, but I've got a lot of it around the outer edge. And I like that look a little bit better. And again, it's personal preference. It's not right, it's not wrong, but I think it, for me, I just like that look better. Now, I'm going to do this differently right now. And again, this is totally optional. I'm going to hide this for right now, the very top part. And this blur I did right here, well, what I'm going to do is, well, let's duplicate that. I should have done this. Let's move this up here. Let me do this again, where I'm going to grab the cleanup tool right there, like I did the first time. I should have duplicated this the last time, because could have saved some time, Steve, by doing it once and you just duplicate the layer. So I can show you guys some options you might want to try. So let it render out. And I'm going to hide this one for right now. And what I want to do here is, again, make it a smart object layer. So convert to smart object. And I'm going to use a different blur pattern. And let me activate this so we can see the subject. And again, I'm on this layer now. I'm not on the subject right there on that layer. It's this one right here, the background that doesn't have her in the image. So again, there's the clean background right there. I'm going to go to filter drop-down menu, but I'm going to go to blur gallery instead, and I'm going to choose a path blur. And when I choose that, now I get a different interface, and it allows me to do something like this. I'm going to stretch that across, and this allows you to do a little bit more creative blur if you wish. I'm not saying you have to do this, but based on the image, if I pull this down as an example, and I come over here on the far right where it says speed, and I move the slider to the right, you can see it has like a bowing effect to it. And you might like that as an option. You could also, change the bowing effect as to what might look better for you. You might click in certain spots to change that bow, or add another one, I should say, but I don't like that. I'm going to delete that right there. And I clicked on this and it added another category, so I can actually twist that. So you could play with this. Let me move this like right here and just come up with something a little bit different and creative. So again, if I over-exaggerate the speed here, you can see what's happening. And then I'm going to click on OK to accept that. Let that render out. And it just gives you a different, say, variation of that effect right there. So again, something different. Let me turn down this one here so we can take a look at the difference between the two. Which one's better? Personal choice, right? So I just want to, think creatively out of the box, not, be rigid on your thoughts. And then if you want, which just to save time, I'm not going to do, but I'm going to do the visible stamp layer, Shift Control Alt E, which consolidates all the layers into one. And then maybe on that, I want to apply some, multiply, and then add a, let's do that. What the heck? Add a mask there, grab my paintbrush, make sure soft edge brush, maybe 40%. And I'm just doing like a custom vignette. You could color grade, do whatever you want. The point is that hopefully this makes sense to do the building blocks of that Adamski effect. And there's a lot of different ways of doing this effect. I find that this is probably the simplest way to do it for you right there. So Bob, hopefully this makes sense to you. Now I'm going to show you another image that is that I did before in advance just to save time and just to show you what I added here. And this was a horse out in the field. This is the starting image right there. And then this is when I cleaned it up. And then I put that that blur that I just did, the path blur, so you can see the bow in there. And then when I added the horse and I did the blur again, just like I did with the subject running, I added something else here. Let me zoom in here to sort of anchor this a little bit. And this is optional, but you can see this area, it's almost like a shadow effect. And so I just added that in there. And this is all it is I painted in a dark green, but I pulled the opacity down to 50% and it's set to multiply. So if I put this to normal and make it at 100%, you can see that's what I had painted in, but I masked out certain areas to clean that up. So if I turn that mask on and off, you can see what's happening right there. So again, this was, let me go back here to multiply as my blending mode. And I had this around 50%. So let me pull that to 50% or close to it right there. And you can see the effect there as I add the other images there. So again, just some things to think about when you're creating the Adamski effect. Hopefully people are learning something here. If you are, please do this. It helps out the channel a lot, and it's free, by the way. And that is, like the video, subscribe if you have not subscribed, and hit that notification bell. That way, when I upload a new video, you'll get notified on that. And I do one at least once a week, and it comes out on a Wednesday. All right, so that is the Adamski effect. Hopefully that was helpful for some of you. Let's get out there and try this and think creatively, again, out of the box. And I mean literally out of the box. Until next time, see ya.